Sony just announced the A7V, which is a pretty awesome hybrid camera, and it is not this camera. This is the A7 IV, which I have had for many years at this point. So I love this camera. I love my FX3, and I also love my A7S III, the kind of holy trinity of Sony cameras that has kept me going for years at this point. The A7V is an interesting camera with a lot of features, some similar overlap to the A7 IV, but also some pretty significant upgrades. I am really excited to talk about it, but I'm going to need someone to help me break it down and bring in maybe a little more expertise that I can benefit from. Mark Bennett, here to talk about the Sony A7V. Let me be blunt, Mr. Bennett. Is there a camera crisis in the world today?
The crisis, Tom Buck, if I can call you Tom Buck, the crisis is that there are too many good cameras. And that they all cost money. Look at this. I just reached across the table. This is a Fuji camera. XS20, good enough.
So when it comes to the A7V, the camera to me landed exactly where I wanted it selfishly to land, which is, I think it seems awesome and wonderful, and it does not make me feel the need to upgrade.
Right, that's the perfect spot. But you have because what are the kids, they call you stinking rich? Is that what it is?
You have Riz, I think.
Riz? You have the Riz?
Yes. So I have Sony's, what I call the holy trinity, the FX3, the A7S III, and the A7 IV.
Now, I will say this. I don't have an FX3 or an A7S III or an A7 IV. Okay. I sold my A7 IV. It's the only Sony camera I ever sold. No, wait, I sold the A7 III. But I miss it. And so I'm going to get this camera, number one, for views, but also I was talking to Mark Weimels about this, fabulous camera reviewer, lives down in Australia, if you don't know. And Weimels and I were saying this could literally replace every single camera we have. There's just it. I have an A7R5, it could replace it. I have a ZV-E1, it can replace it. I have a bunch of APS-C cameras, it can obviously replace those. The fact that it has 4K 120, now it is at a crop, an APS-C crop, but it still has it. And an APS-C crop on 4K 120 is still full frame, not full frame, but full sensor APS-C 4K 120. Sony's APS-C cameras have a 1.5 times crop on an APS-C sensor.
Right.
So it's better for 4K 120 than any of my APS-C cameras. It is the only Sony camera that has 4K 120 full frame that is not the ZV-E1, but the ZV-E1 is smaller, plasticky, overheats pretty easily if you're really stressing it. Its photo ability is terrible because it's just electronic shutter. It has no electronic viewfinder. It is not a good camera for amateur, prosumer, or professional photographer. Whereas this A7V is an absolute beast of a pro photo camera, as well as one of Sony's best. It's truly their best hybrid at the best price.
The A7 IV, the A7 III before it have been like the camera for everyone. When you want to jump into full frame and you want to get into that higher end prosumer, professional-ish range, these cameras have kind of been it in the past. And this one seems to like take that further, like 30 FPS shooting for photos is, you're just filming video.
Mechanical shutter, right?
Yes, but you have to go through 30 FPS worth of photos when you're done. It's the downside to that. But like that's insane. What is it, like up to a 1 second of pre-shooting? So if you just miss something by a second, which happens all the time, you could potentially have yourself covered. And then the E1 introduced, my wife Heather has the E1, and it introduced the AI tracking and whatever, which works surprisingly well.
Let me cut you off there for a second, Tom Buck, if I can call you Tom Buck. It is the A7 IV. The reason I sold it and I upgraded to the A7R5, I call it an upgrade for photo in the sense that it has the AI chip. So what's happening is, if the folks out there don't know me, I do a lot of lens testing from a lot of different countries, not just Sony first-party lenses. I'll do the Chinese lenses, I'll do the Korean lenses, and a lot of these guys are coming up with really great autofocus lenses. But here's something that I noticed, and that's why I had to get rid of the A7 IV. There are times, if you don't have a Sony camera with an AI chip, sometimes on the non-native first-party, newer Sony lenses, you can miss the eye a little bit. I was doing these camera tests, and I'm getting the eye with any of my Sony cameras that have AI chips, like A6700, ZV-E1, but my A7 IV was missing. Switched it out to the A7R5, nailed it every time. So there's this thing where it seems like the previous autofocus without the AI is just as good, and in many situations it is. But depending on your lens, you might actually benefit from that AI.
So the AI is really AEYE AI.
That's right. This is why we tune in.
Oh, let's talk about the price a little bit.
On B&H, it's $2,900. In Canada, where I live, it's $3,700, which is actually better for us than if you do the straight exchange rate. Straight exchange rate is somewhere around 4,000 Canadian.
Oh, okay.
Because we're not getting hit quite as hard with some of the import taxes that you guys are. So
you don't have as much freedom as we have. That's what it is.
We're not here to talk about politics. We're here to talk about the divisiveness of cameras.
Yes.
Now, what do you think of that? Because there's going to be a whole lot of angry open gators out there.
Yeah, they need help. They need some gator aid.
We have that free in Canada.
Damn it. It has a few features that make it friendly for vertical photo and video. So it's created with the awareness that people are using cameras in multiple orientations. Therefore, kind of makes sense that there would be some open gate in there. So you don't have to think about it when you're filming. You get everything and then you decide later how you want to use it.
I have some open gate. I have some Lumix cameras, and I was using them for a while, and I didn't dig the workflow because I have to crop it regardless, because I have to back up the camera to get the right shot, to get the right headroom, and then I crop 16:9 or I crop 9:16, and overall I just find it easier to separate the two. I know sometimes you don't have the ability, you just have to shoot one thing once, but when you do shoot that one thing once, it's not framed up the way you want for each one of them. Do you know what I mean? You're kind of doing an in-between. However, I think that Sony could have at least given you 6K or the 7K or even 5K, 5.2K. That would give people the ability to back up their camera a little bit, and then you still have the same headroom. You can crop in this way and you'll have more than 4K resolution. You could crop 16:9 and get rid of the headroom and still have 4K resolution. So I thought they could have gone at least 5.2K, maybe 6K, and then that could have eliminated the need for open gate for a lot of people, or just flat out put open gate in there.
What's very exciting for me, something I noticed, is that it has 2 USB ports, one for power, one for data, and you can do 4K streaming over USB. That is a very big deal for people who spend money on, I've got a little capture card over here that I'm running my FX3 into to get a 4K signal.
Yeah, I use it all the time. I use the ZV-E1 and the A6700, they have it, and I use that especially when I'm traveling. Like a couple of years ago, I went to Sony Condo. I just took the camera and a USB-C cord, and I just plugged it into the computer and I streamed 4K 30 from the USB-C, and I loved it. It also supplied power from the USB-C cable to the USB-C. But that makes me wonder, the two cables, that will probably, if you can power through one and stream through the other, it will probably reduce heat even further, and then your 4K 30 streaming could be even better.
That's what I was going to ask about, was some overheating, because Sony said that you can do 90 minutes of 4K 60.
So I just looked up Gerald Undon's overheating tests, and he said it's the most impressive camera he's seen that doesn't have a fan in it for overheating. He said 4K 24, the battery died before it overheated. His room was 22 degrees Celsius, 72 degrees Fahrenheit. 4K 60, he got 2 hours and the battery died. And yeah, basically he didn't have any situations where the camera overheated when he was doing it. Right now, I'm shooting with the little ZV-E10 Mark II, but I have a Ulanzi fan plugged in because I'm really stressing the camera right now with all the streaming I'm doing and all the recordings and screens. So it would overheat probably if I didn't have that fan.
I don't know if it's going to make it in the recording, but your camera is the first time it kind of glitched during the stream at all. And it was like, I'm really stressing the camera. It's like, so when it comes to this camera, who do you think that this camera is for?
I think if we just look at it in a vacuum without people's particular needs, it is simply the best overall Sony camera, certainly full frame, that you can buy, bar none. So if you have the money, then I think it's the smartest possible Sony camera to go into unless you have very specific needs. If you're a hybrid shooter, you do a lot of photos, you do a lot of video, and you either want to do pro work or you do pro work or you aspire to that, it would be my number one recommendation. If you're coming from the APS-C market, once again, and you want to get in a full frame, I would get this camera. And if you are, hold on, I had a thought there.
We'll get it.
And if you already have a full frame camera, if you have the A7C II, I might not necessarily upgrade because unless you need that 4K 120, if you have an A7 IV, I think it's on the fence. A7 III, absolutely. Just 100%. If you got an A7 III, this is a wonderful jump. I think the A7 IV is still really, really, really great. A7R5, I mean, if you're noticing that shutter is a little too slow and you want to do more action-oriented photos. Now you still got 33 megapixels, but you have basically a sports camera. What do you think? Who do you think it's for?
I think you pretty much nailed it. Like it is a darn near perfect hybrid camera, and that's what I've been using my A7 IV for a long time. Right now, I've no desire to upgrade just because I have this and I have my other cameras. But there is a part of me when I'm doing something where I'm taking one camera and I'm going somewhere, I take the A7 IV. Because I know I can do my photo and I do my video. But there is a part of me that does always feel like, okay, remember, you don't have 4K 120. You don't have, there's like, on the video side of things, there's a few small limitations that I can easily live with, but they're always in my brain. And so there's always a part of me when I put this in my bag, I'm like, okay, just remember you have a few limitations. And those would go away with the A7V.
We didn't even touch on it, but the rolling shutter performance is much improved. So that is something that Gerald measured at something like 14 milliseconds. I think the A7 IV was somewhere around 24. So for anybody who was getting a little jello in their video, or they were trying to shoot electronic shutter at a wedding to stay quiet or whatever, this is going to do you a whole lot better. So that's another human being that may want to upgrade, someone that's noticed some rolling shutter issues in their A7 IV. If you only had the A7 IV, do you think you'd upgrade?
If I only had the A7 IV, I think what I would do is want to get an A7 V and then have the 4 be my B camera and the 5 be my main camera.
I will say that one of the ways the A7 V fails compared to, say, a ZV-E1 is with low light. And I'm sure the A7 V is great in low light, but it doesn't have a dual native ISO of 12,800. And I honestly use that a lot. Like I'll use the 4K 120 combined with the 12,800 a great deal because I don't want the noisy 4K footage when it starts to get a little dim out. Crank it up to 12,800, clean as a whistle.
So these are just our thoughts. Let us know down below if you would upgrade, what you would upgrade to, why you would or wouldn't upgrade, because I'm definitely curious to know how everybody's feeling. So thank you again, Mark, for being here and being part of this with me. And I'm going to go play with some cameras now.
Okay, I'm going to go pre-order this.